Well, if you try and keeping up with corona law, you may have noticed it's always changing. For example, first they told you don't wear masks. Now they're telling you may have to wear 3. This time the CDC is changing its social distancing guidelines. We reported the other night that those guidelines are based on nothing. They're essentially made up. At best, they're taken from 19th century research on malaria or cholera or something, tuberculosis. So now the CDC says school children can be kept 3 feet apart, not 6. There are also new rules for riding roller coasters in California. You're not allowed to scream because that could be dangerous. It's hard to believe these are real, but they are. Someone who is very well experienced in changing the rules as he goes along and not admitting that he has is Anthony Fauci. Fauci, for example, has already been vaccinated. Great. That's what they want us to do. Lots of Americans have been, millions. But the interesting thing is that Fauci still wears 2 masks. So is that the science? Once you get vaccinated, you still have to wear 2 masks? Why are you getting vaccinated in the first place? What are the rules here and what is the science? Well, someone finally asked Fauci this at a Senate hearing yesterday, and here's how it went.
You're telling everybody to wear a mask, whether they've had an infection or a vaccine. What I'm saying is they have immunity, and everybody agrees they have immunity. What studies do you have that people that have had the vaccine or have had the infection are spreading the infection? If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?
No, it's
not. The vaccine and you're wearing 2 masks. Isn't that theater?
No, that's not. Here we go again with the theater. Let's get down to the facts.
What proof is there that there are significant reinfections with hospitalizations and death from the variants? None in our country. 0.
Well, because we don't have a prevalent of a variant yet.
Senator Rand Paul represents Kentucky in the U.S., and he's also not insignificantly a physician, so he had the grounding to ask those questions, and thank God that he did. Senator Rand Paul joins us now. Senator, thanks a lot for coming on and for pressing Anthony Fauci. Were you satisfied that there is science behind this? And if so, what is that science? Sincere question.
No, there was no scientific evidence presented. There was Dr. Fauci's opinion, his conjecture that someday there might be a variant that escapes the control of the vaccine and becomes a pandemic and hospitalizes and kills people. But there's no evidence that it has happened. He thinks it might happen, so you need to wear the mask until he's sure that things that might happen are not going to happen. But see, the thing is, Dr. Fauci is very blasé and unconcerned about liberty. But I think the burden should be on the government to prove. If they want to dictate mine and your behavior, the burden is on them to present the evidence. So I said, is there an evidence that some new variant, some new strain of COVID is now hospitalizing and killing hundreds or even thousands of people in the United States? And the evidence is 0. So I think the government, when they tell you something like you should be 6 feet apart or 3 feet apart, if they're going to mandate this behavior that you can't have anybody in the booth next to you in the restaurant, when they mandate these behaviors, it's incumbent upon them. The burden should be they have to show us the proof. There is no proof that when you've been vaccinated or when you've gotten the disease naturally that you are spreading it. If there were, it would be all over the news. There are no news reports and no scientific studies saying that after vaccination that there's some sort of widespread contagion that people vaccinated are spreading the disease. It's just not true. What Fauci won't tell you is that he's telling you a noble lie. He's lying to you because he doesn't think we're smart enough to make decisions. His fear is that if the vaccinated quit wearing the mask, the unvaccinated will say, what the hell, I'm not wearing a mask either. Right. So he lies to you to say, oh, the mask makes a difference, when in reality, he knows better. He's wearing 2 masks for theater. It's complete theater. He is immune. He knows he's not going to get it, but he is not being honest with the American public.
So the reason I can tell that there's lying going on is that no one ever acknowledges the downside. And there's a downside to everything. Everything is a trade-off. That's the nature of life. I'm not against masks. I'm not arguing against masks. But, I mean, there's no downside to wearing 2 masks? What about oxygen or hypercapnia from getting too much carbon dioxide in your blood? Why doesn't anyone ever mention the potential physical effects of wearing masks, ever?
Yeah, and one thing about freedom is freedom doesn't have to be practical or have a study to say why you should have to have freedom. They need to have a study and a scientific proof to show us why we shouldn't have freedom. I shouldn't have to prove that I want to be free and I want to be left alone and I want to breathe the air. I was on the treadmill the other day, and some Karen goes and tells the people, he's on a treadmill, he's running without a mask. I mean, for goodness sakes, is this the world we're going to live in, where everybody's reporting everyone and the Gestapo's going to come and arrest you like this poor woman? I mean, my goodness, they need to present the proof. The burden should be on the government. Show us that someone that's been vaccinated, or that significant numbers of those who are vaccinated are getting it again, being hospitalized and dying, or spreading it. Instead of the conjecture of Anthony Fauci says, someday you might. So my response to him was, well, someday the Spanish flu might come back. So maybe we should always wear masks, because this isn't as bad as the Spanish flu. It's a lot less deadly, but someday the Spanish flu is going to come back. So why should we not just wear masks all the time till we die?
Yeah. And you need to find a new gym away from the crazy people. Oh, for sure. Senator, thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.